This is Dr. Justine Chevalier. This video is pertinent to the series on romantic relationships that, at least partially, due to technical difficulties, are contained in the sutra on a permanence of dreams. In a playlist on this channel you may find it. This is a topic denominated obstacles. When we sometimes misinterpret persons or animals or goals such as work as obstacles to the most wanted romantic relationship, we indulge into destruction, and that destruction creates sometimes even worse. It has been in many instances mistaken with an obstacle that consists of physical obstacles, such as omitting a wall to see someone, or financial one to pay for a vehicle to get to a place, that does not impose love and goodness of another person superior to own in such perceptions, or de facto as an obstacle, because love is not possible to destroy, and post-mortem, even for eternity, persons can dwell as souls, trying to prove selves to be more loving, or requesting as demands, requesting a love of the same magnitude, while giving to that person no more than request, or less than someone else. That someone else can be a parent, can be a stranger that is a charitable person, can be of any gender, can be a faithful animal who placed faith in one, and regardless of all misunderstandings, trusted in the best intentions, knowing and remembering the relationship for life. And the only way to destroy obstacles such as superior in memories or de facto love of others is to outmatch such in own goodness towards that particular chosen and beloved person. And that sometimes is misunderstood. For example, even if I took all of exes and current spouse of the most beloved of all persons, and also children, and wiped them out in some sort of conspiracy or attacks, I still would gain no more than tears of that person, even if I for some time created an impression by delegating to do such to others, that I am more loving, and that person in exhaustion would accept my love in an immediate type of outburst of emotions or generosity. It is not possible to outmatch or destroy love by being bad. It is only possible to outmatch such and also have non-obstacles in mind and body to sexual activity, in being more loving than all of persons loved by the chosen person, by self. And so an example of that is, if your beloved female, let's call her Miranda has had an extremely generous father, and the father was loving and would risk all for Miranda and give everything to her. And so Miranda then became independent, and Miranda is struggling, you see. Miranda is struggling to collect in tips for the same degree of what the father provided, and the father is dead. And so one day men arrive and take Miranda for someone who has no expectations, you see. And men arrive and appear as if Miranda was never loved, you see. And each of men that is degrading Miranda by providing less love than the father, meaning, for example, demanding from Miranda gratefulness for when Miranda is hungry an apple, when Miranda has money to purchase those, or they grow outside on a tree. That brings from Miranda sarcasm and ridicule towards those candidates, in comparison to love that the father had. Traditionally, police were guardians, as alike knights, of chevalier, which were guardians of holy fire. And that meant that each and every time, all, regardless of gender, we compete for superior loving kindness, which means superior loving kindness in comparison to all loved persons, including God, per person that we wish to compete for. And so the competition is, and rivalry is, all the time. But that rivalry consists of goodness to one another and trying to be there when that person needs the most, without sabotaging one another, in faith in one another, as well as trying to promote all others, and then knowing that all being at the best, one is the winner in loving that person the most, and that person is wise enough to recognize that this is so. And so remember that competition is to outmatch love of the most loving in one's life, in own love, adoration for a person, own goodness, and then matching to reciprocity in self-esteem, having known who loved one the most in one's life, match the reciprocity of that person when it comes to sexual relationship, especially as to reciprocity of such goodness and appreciation from such, from being smitten to making promises for life, to offering children an utmost even desire, which shrubs are not enough. Like Eckhart Tolle said, do not be a beggar, and do not get satisfied with bits and pieces for things that are basic and that are accessible in skills for most. And when not, we cannot talk. And medical, police, firemen and women, and other even persons who just are what's called good Samaritans, vows, which is impressive when person is very busy, especially, or very in love, which is all the time. We have those floating bits and pieces, but that is not the whole, the being complete. And so remember, you cannot kill or reduce to seek in bad reputation and rumors, or even drive to violence or horrid acts, or prove false, which is this love, a rival, be it male or female, for another person, or outmatched by sabotage in work or in reputation, in other things, nor you can promote someone if that person does not love. Because in the first case, it actually is seen through that you love less, because if you did, you would never harm whoever that person that you pursue loves or loved the most. And in the second case, it is to obtain someone that you will sit by and say, everybody wants and everybody loves. For example, Janis Joplin. Why it is that I want Janis Joplin's hand, and I sit there being a male, and I do not know now what it is all about? Well, it is because reputation and fame is to reach to the person that is appropriate, most loving, and then in reciprocity, most love. And if not, it depends on a relationship. But remember, in non-expectation and modesty, work is offered as even knights, and in competition for utmost goodness, and in competition for being the best, without sabotaging and knowing that goodness of others is good for self too at all times. Having such, one can win without creating any conflict. And in such way, then, there is, in fact, only an illusion of sin, an illusion of evil, and not true one. Despite the pain, that remember, never discard someone's pain, never discard someone's tears if you do not have capacity, because that person reminds of someone who is harmful, did harm non-intentionally, or harmed in person. Try to at least remove self in indifference, allow person to get out, or allow someone else to take over. Do not elaborate vendetta, because you can be fooled. And you can be fooled many times based on impressions, based on what I denominated in my book exposure of health, impressions impressions of living a dream, not pursuing it, an appearance of other persons, and then upsetness because the one who is adored does not love quite as much of all that exists. And the deterioration of mood to promote a new relationship, while then the surprised person comes and says, "What about me? I've been doing something for someone else. What about me? How could you?" And see, that's jealousy. Jealousy is sometimes a message that none of the competitors is for one. And remember, always consider Buddha or consider God as a worthy rival at all times, and consider self in self-esteem as able to win, because love for God is alive and not relationship to survive till superior God comes. That applies to all. Have a good day. Bye bye.